you are aware about the initiative of IMA, Just a Minute, which has interviewed a lot of senior stakeholders. Today we start a new initiative called Vidyut Pe Charcha, and in the first edition we interview the Power Secretary Shri Ajay Bhalla. Very good morning. We are with the Secretary Power, Government of India, Mr. Ajay Bhalla, and thank you for your time, sir. Under your stewardship in the last few years, the last mile connectivity, electricity for all, electricity reaching each and every village and then getting energized was achieved. Bada achievement. I'm sure the journey must have been very interesting and challenging also. We would like you to share it with us.
Yeah, it has been very interesting and challenging work. When Prime Minister announced on 15th August 2015 that in 1000 days all the 18,000 remaining villages should be connected, it was quite a challenging task. But then we were implementing a scheme called the Deen Dayal Upadhyaya Gram Jyoti Yojana, which had different components including strengthening of infrastructure in the villages. There we brought in this component of electrification of unelectrified villages, and this thing was discussed with all the state governments. Each sort of state had formulated an action plan in the form of a DPR, which we approved, sanctioned, and then the work started. And work progressed at a very rapid pace, leaving aside certain areas of Arunachal Pradesh and J&K and certain left-wing areas in Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. But then the persistent efforts of the central government, we continuously reviewed this implementation with the state governments, and whatever problems they faced, like procurement of materials, somewhere we had given standalone solar solutions where grid could not reach. So those are the states which needed help. And finally, in J&K and Arunachal, we had to use helicopters to deliver some of these materials. And of course, head load movement was there in large numbers. Somewhere we had to cross the rivers and all, especially in Assam, certain island areas to be electrified and all. So it was quite challenging but very interesting task. When the numbers was getting completed, it was a big satisfaction, and we could complete all the 18,000 plus villages within less than 1000 days, which Prime Minister had agreed.
Yeah, because the terrain is so diverse.
It is.
And very, very challenging in certain areas. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What is the future plan?
Future, after that we started with another scheme called Sahaj Bijli, Pradhan Mantri Sahaj Bijli Har Ghar Yojana, which was basically to provide electricity connection to all unelectrified households. It was a free connection to the poorer households, and for other non-poor households it was supposed to be recovered 500 rupees in billing over a period of 10 months. So this again was a government funded scheme. It was quite a challenge because in our village electrification, even if 10% households are electrified, it was treated as electrified village. But this was a challenge. We initially estimated more than 3 crore households would be unelectrified. But when the work started and the survey was done, finally we electrified about 2.64 crore households, which is quite a big number in a short time span. It is about 18 months time. The target was brought to 15 months, which we largely achieved for bigger states, but certain smaller states we could achieve only by March 19, which was our target time for 18 months. And this was a much more challenging task to connect to each and every household. Here also we used standalone solar solutions in some of hilly areas and distant areas. Otherwise, grid coverage is very, very large, and it's quite a remarkable feat to achieve universal electrification. International Electricity Agency IEA has shown it as one of the big achievement of India, that the coverage of unelectrified areas have been very, very rapid, and African countries and all are being told that if they can follow the same model, we are also willing to extend any help and support in that regard.
after this achievement, quality of power, continuous electricity, uninterrupted electricity, and then recovery of the cost. उस पे क्या करना है?
These are the follow-up challenges. Simply electrification of a household doesn't mean anything unless you ensure the whole infrastructure is there. So actually, while doing household electrification, we realized this, especially in some states, the backbone of the infrastructure was not very strong. So we sanctioned about 10,000 crore rupees to these states for development of this infrastructure. So now, I mean, with the earlier scheme of Dindyal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana, Saubhagya, and this additional infrastructure, we have tried to ensure that this backbone is built strongly, and power supply quality is maintained 24/7. All states have signed agreements with the government of India that they will achieve 24/7 power supply. So the only missing link there was that infrastructure in some of the remote areas was not there. So these schemes have provided us with funds, and states have contributed and they have taken loans to ensure that this infrastructure is built. So I feel once this infrastructure, which is already largely in place, in some places the work is going on, will ensure that quality supply is made available. As far as availability of power is concerned, it's not an issue. You very rightly asked that present system of recovery by the DISCOMs is a matter of concern. So what we are proposing is that we have metered all the connections. Now we are working on a project that we should install smart meters or prepaid smart meters which can work in prepaid mode. Also, so that a user like a mobile phone can use electricity to the extent he has the money. So it will be quite a cultural change in the whole electricity sector. We have been discussing with the meter manufacturers that how fast we can cover in the whole country with smart metering system. We have a target of 3 years time to complete that. So billing and collection system presently, yes, I mean it could be an issue, but many state governments have outsourced it as franchises and all. So that also can be brought in till the smart metering or the prepaid meters come in.
So another very important aspect which we are witnessing is the e-mobility.
Right.
And there is a very ambitious plan of the Ministry of Heavy Industry, Niti Aayog is also working on it. And but it will throw up a lot of challenges on the electrical infrastructure from the charging point of view.
Right.
So is the ministry doing something
Yes,
on that?
we in this scheme of encouraging or promoting e-vehicles, our role is to set up charging infrastructure. We have already laid down a policy for that. We have amended the safety regulations for this purpose, and then we have brought out the guidelines for setting up a public charging infrastructure. Now simultaneously, Urban Affairs Ministry also has brought out guidelines for setting up of charging infrastructure at the residential colonies and all, and that will take care, because many vehicles get charged at the residence, slow chargers in the AC system. Public charging has to be the fast charging system, so we are installing chargers in certain places. Like NDMC, we have already covered about 180 fast chargers have been installed in different locations. Now we are working with the municipal corporations, and then in the NCR area. Many state governments are already working on it, and already like somewhere the DISCOMs have a setup with the private operator for setting up of charging stations, including in their own land and all substations and all. So it's a challenge. Our grid strength is there to handle it. Only the fluctuation of the system we need to study continuously, and then ensure that the whole system, the grid is not impacted with this. I mean, I'm very confident that our power system operator is very competent to handle these kind of things.
Mr. Bhalla, Odisha was hit very badly by a cyclone, and you went to Bhubaneswar very early on. What was the condition there, and what was done to restore and reconstruct the fallen power infrastructure?
See, cyclone, the preparation was very good for evacuation of people. Odisha has set up shelters and all. So if you look at the number of people displaced, put in shelters and lives lost, it was a wonderful job done. Secondly, we were this time, because of accurate forecast, we were aware of the landfall point and the kind of speed which we were going to face. Now it was almost nearing 200 kilometers per hour cyclone. Our power structures are not designed to deal with such kind of things. What we did as a preparation was that emergency restoration systems are stationed somewhere close by, right from Srikakulam and further up onto the Odisha coast. And state government also had their ERS systems, and whatever materials they could have, they had kept at certain places. But the damage was so extensive. Fortunately, as far as the interstate transmission network was concerned, we lost one major tower, which has been restored, and it was restored quite fast. But even the state intrastate transmission lines also were badly affected. But a timely intervention of installing ERS ensured that the basic power supply movement in the transmission network was restored from 4th day onwards. But the destruction of 33 kV lines, 11 kV lines and the LT network was such huge that today also Puri we have been able to achieve only 50% restoration. Bhubaneswar and all other districts have been done in this thing. We could reach electricity to Puri only after 12 days. And 15th of May was the first time when we could light up a part of Puri town which had underground cabling. But all other open structures had fallen. Now this is a lesson to be learned. One thing, we can have a preventive systems. Secondly, perhaps we need to make an SOP where in such scenarios when we are aware such strong winds are going to be there, that what kind of things we should do, and have a preparation for, especially in coastal areas, even if it is costlier, to look for models which are like you have cabling of certain voltage and other things. So I mean, that is what now again we are working on it, that what best can be done in coastal areas. We have done underground cabling in some urban areas and all. Like Puri temple area had this, so that's an area which is saved. So one has to work it in a big way.
There will be different challenges for different kind of natural disasters.
Natural disaster, yeah. Earthquakes
Floods
and
and-
this thing, floods everything. We had a similar kind of flood situation in Kerala, so that the transformers got submerged. So all those transformers needed repairs, oil to be replaced and all. So naturally, but there we could sort of immediately get into it and do it. But here the destruction of the network was a major challenge, which I would say Puri now 50% is restored. By next 10 days, we are hopeful that everything will be restored.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Balla, for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.